What is the obsession with Mike Tomlin in Tampa Bay? I really don't get it. Like everybody, I've heard the conversation on social media, callers on this radio station, my colleagues on the station too. And look, everybody has the right to their own opinion. I just don't understand the obsession with Mike Tomlin and why everybody wants Mike Tomlin next year if things go south here in Tampa Bay. To me, Mike Tomlin is a little bit better than Todd Bowles. Like, they're kind of the same person. You know that Spider-Man meme where Spider-Man's pointing at Spider-Man? That's kind of Mike Tomlin pointing at Todd Bowles when you really think about it. I don't think Mike Tomlin is taking you to the next level. Do I think Mike Tomlin is a really good coach? I do. Do I think he was a fantastic leader for the Pittsburgh Steelers? I do. Do I think that Mike Tomlin might even be a little bit overrated by everybody? Not a hot take, but I think he might be. When you look at his 19 seasons in Pittsburgh, his playoff record was 8-12. And I know what you're thinking. Well, that's 20 playoff games in 19 years. Sure. But 8 of those playoff wins came in 4 different seasons. Think about that. 4 seasons out of 19, he won a playoff game. That's worse pace than Todd Bowles. In 2008, he won against the Chargers, the Ravens, and then the Super Bowl against the Cardinals. He got 3 playoff wins. 2010, he got a win over the Ravens and a win over the Jets, 2 more playoff wins. 2015, a win over the Bengals, just 1 playoff win. 2016, got a win over the Dolphins and a win over the Chiefs, 2 playoff wins. Nothing since. Total seasons with at least 1 playoff win, 4 out of 19. Total playoff victories, 8. Last playoff win, 2016. I am good on Mike Tomlin. I have 0 interest. Not only that, but you'd have to give up draft picks to go get this guy. No, thank you. Am I the only one in Tampa Bay that's just not interested in Mike Tomlin? I'd rather go a different route. Because also, you have all of these offensive weapons, and if you bring in another defensive-minded head coach, and look, I know I'm talking about something that might happen a year from now, and the whole show's not going to be about what happens after the 2026 season, but because Tomlin retired this week and there's all this chatter about his connection to Tampa Bay, I just wanted to give my 2 cents. None of it makes sense, because if Tomlin comes in here, you're going to end up with the same issues. A defensive-minded, older coach, and you have all of this talent on the offensive side of the ball, and if they have any success, those offensive coaches are going to leave you for head coaching jobs. And you're literally going through the same thing you're going through with Todd Bowles. Average, mediocre seasons, playoff appearances, one-and-dones, and that's not what we want in Tampa Bay. We want to go to that next level. Now, an interesting stat that we've seen all week long, some of you have maybe seen it, some of you have maybe not. I did not realize this until this week. With Tomlin stepping down and Harbaugh going to the Giants, I did not know that no coach has ever won a Super Bowl with a team, then gone on to another team to win another Super Bowl. No head coach has ever won as a head coach with 2 different organizations. What makes you think Mike Tomlin, who hasn't won a playoff game since 2016, will be the guy that, breaks that streak? I just think that the ceiling is low under Mike Tomlin. You don't need someone to come in and stabilize the team. You need someone to come in and raise the ceiling. And I don't think he does that. So that was my 2 cents on Mike Tomlin. There's just a lot of Mike Tomlin chatter, about next year, and I'm just not interested. I have no interest in Mike Tomlin for the Buccaneers. Not now, not next year, not ever. I'm good. Thank you. Nope. It just doesn't make any sense. But there's definitely an obsession with Mike Tomlin. He is living off of a Super Bowl that was, by the time he coaches again, 19 years ago, 2008. And by the way, he had a Hall of Fame quarterback until 2022. Now, Ben at the end was obviously getting really old, but regardless, I'm good on Mike Tomlin. The John Harbaugh stuff, pretty interesting, right? He moves on to the New York Giants, so we think. A deal still not set in place, although the reports are it's going to get done. It's the terminology and the language in the contract that they're trying to change. I'm sure dealing with one of the Harbaughs isn't the easiest thing in the world. I can only imagine his agent marks down every single thing in the contract. And by the way, these contracts are like 40 pages long, so they do take time. And I know Giants fans are freaking out, like, is this ever going to happen? The one thing that I have found interesting in this John Harbaugh situation is, there was a report. I know Joe Bucs fan had the story on their website about the Buccaneers did reach out to John Harbaugh. And my idea of the way that all of this, my take on this of the way that's gone down with the Giants is John Harbaugh had zero interest in coming to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Zero interest. He was not interested at all because his demands that were reported, if true, were pretty wild, right? Like he wants to bring in his own GM and he wants full control. Now, I believe some of that, right? And he wanted $100 million, full control of his own GM, and some of that I believe is true. I believe he did want $100 million. I do believe he wanted full control. I think the GM thing was just him going, all right, I'm not interested in the Buccaneers, but I'm going to throw out this wild offer, and I'm going to throw out these wild numbers. And if they're like, okay, we'll do it, I don't think they are, but if they will do it, then maybe I start to consider going to Tampa Bay. So he threw out wild demands. One of them included not having Jason Light as the GM, and the Bucs were like, no thanks, we'll move on. And so John Harbaugh was like, all right, perfect. I didn't want to go there anyways. I'm going to move on. And now he goes to the New York Giants, who I think look, they got a nice, really young roster with some talent all over the football field. I think it's a great spot for John Harbaugh. Again, though, he already won a Super Bowl at Baltimore. No coach has ever left a team and then won a Super Bowl somewhere else. So the odds of him winning a Super Bowl in New York, very rare. So I'm not bummed that the Buccaneers aren't going to get John Harbaugh. But I find it fascinating that he's not picking the GM in New York. Joe Schoen is going to continue to be the general manager. So all of that was a bogus lie. Now, maybe it comes out that Joe Schoen's going to get let go, and that's part of what's slowing this down. But from everything that I've seen from New York media, that's not the case. They're on the same page. Joe Schoen's going to lean on John Harbaugh quite a bit to make decisions, and he's okay with that. And he should be, especially if he wants to keep his job because he's made some bad decisions. He's the guy that let their best player go to their division rival, Saquon Barkley, to the Eagles. But I found that fascinating that Harbaugh, all of the demands that he reportedly wanted here in Tampa Bay are not actually taking place with the Giants, which is interesting because I think Jason Light's a better GM than Joe Schoen. Who have the Buccaneers interviewed so far for the offensive coordinator position? Mike McDaniel, Todd Monken, Brian Callahan, David Shaw, Israel Woolfolk, and Zach Robinson. I do think one of these guys is going to end up being your offensive coordinator. It will be one of those names. I do have my prediction for that coming up at 10 o'clock. I have an idea who I think it's going to be. I also want to talk a little bit more about Mike McDaniel as well. I know everybody's got their heart set on Mike McDaniel. I was listening to Chris Mathis on my way in. I know for him, it's basically Mike McDaniel or bust. I've heard him talk about it all week in the hallways. Like that's his heart is dead set on Mike McDaniel. And I think a lot of Bucs fans are. They feel like it's McDaniel or bust. So I want to talk about the negative side to why I'm not on board with Mike McDaniel. Everybody's on board with Mike McDaniel. And I'm not saying it wouldn't be a tremendous hire. It would be. But there are some downsides to that hire as well. And we'll talk about that coming up next. I also put together last night my predictions for every single head coaching job opening. So we'll get into those as well. A lot of predictions today. We're going to pick all the head coaching openings. I've got who I think is going to be the Bucs offensive coordinator. We'll do the divisional round games and also the national championship game. All right, fully loaded show today. My name is Nick Wize. Thank you so much for hanging out on a Saturday. I really appreciate you. You can also stream the show on iHeartRadio. You know, if you're driving somewhere right now and you're almost home, but you want to hear all of who's going where, I got you. Just stream it on iHeartRadio inside your warm, comfortable house because it is damn cold outside. And by the way, one of the divisional round games this weekend in Chicago is supposed to be freezing cold. The Rams and the Bears. If it's this cold here, I can't imagine what it feels like there. We're going to talk about all of this stuff going on in the world of sports. If you're just waking up, appreciate you having us on. We will be right back.